Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Well, the comments section's gonna be fun on this one! Let's get this out of the way to spare you some time. If you've never watched my show before but wanted to see yet another internet reviewer talk about this film, well, I don't like this movie. At all. I am not a fan of Zack Snyder's work. I don't really like any of his movies. But if you love this one, loved the vision he had for the DC Cinematic Universe, great! I am more than happy for you. You should be allowed to take joy in the media you like. Clearly, you get something out of these movies that I did not. I am not some fandom gatekeeper or someone who's going to insult you for enjoying something I don't. I do not position myself as the supreme arbiter of media quality. Hell, I wouldn't even be reviewing this movie normally outside the vlog I made when I first saw it, but a patron paid me to do a review of it in my usual style, and I am a bit of a windbag, so here we are. Much like the reviews of the Star Wars prequel comics, it's okay for us to disagree. You have emotional investment in this piece of media, and that's good. We're supposed to have an attachment to the things we're watching, a like or dislike for what is being presented. But you are not a product. I am not criticizing you when I am critiquing a film or a comic book or a TV show or etc. You can think that I'm full of crap and then never watch another review, because in the end, it's all just opinions. Maybe my opinions make sense to you, maybe they don't. I'm trying here, but we are different people and we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. I have heard arguments defending this film. I have heard analyses of it from people who liked it. I have read opinions about why some like the movies, defenses of things that others have scoffed at, and I just can't agree with them. And that's okay. I know I'm not going to sway you any more than you're going to sway me, so let's just go forward assuming that it's just me giving my thoughts on a movie that I don't like and leave it at that, okay? Although I feel like we need a point of agreement to get started talking about things. Can we at least all agree the title of this movie is stupid and unwieldy and baffling? First of all, V instead of versus. Zack Snyder told USA Today in 2014 that it's to keep it from being a straight versus movie, even in the most subtle way. That doesn't make any friggin' sense. The centerpiece of the damn movie is them fighting, the supposed conflict between the two about how dangerous one or the other is. Plus, what the hell else is it supposed to stand for if not versus? Batman vacuums Superman? Batman vibrates Superman? Batman vomits Superman? All of the marketing about this film was about them fighting. If you didn't want that to be the case, why didn't you name it Batman/Superman? I mean, let's face it, they're both superheroes. They're going to team up. The entire reason this is happening is to start up DC's cinematic universe, where they're going to eventually form the Justice League. Putting V instead of versus isn't some subtle way of keeping it from being a versus movie. It just makes it look like you had to pay by the letter, which goes out the window since you also added that idiotic subtitle. There's a reason that every time this movie is mentioned, I call it Batman v Superman Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Because the last time I heard of a movie with a title as unwieldy and bizarre as that was the Godzilla film sporting that one, while sharing the title with Mothra and King Ghidorah. Also, Baragon was there too. I mean, I suppose I could have gone with the movie that had a worse title and called this The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Batman and Superman. Although apparently Snyder decided to backtrack on that, recently saying that he was constantly in negotiations with Warner Brothers on the title, wanting something like Son of Sun and Night of Night, which is amazingly worse. It kind of feels like he wanted something akin to Man of Steel for the title, but Man of Steel is a pre-existing nickname for Superman. It's got history behind it. Nobody calls him Son of Sun. But yeah, back to the title we did get. Like, what does this title even mean? Oh, that it's the prequel to Justice League? Why is that necessary? No one felt like they should have added to Iron Man 2, Rise of Avenging, or called Captain America, The First Avenger. Okay, bad example, that shouldn't have been there either. Yet it still feels 1,000 times more natural than Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. There's no reason to have this subtitle. It's pretentious at best and moronic at worst. Even Chris Terrio, who did the main rewrite of the script, called the title a disaster, adding recently that it could have also also been worse because in Warner Brothers' massive rush to catch up with Marvel, there was a point where the movie would have been called, like, Justice League Beginnings or something, even though it only has 3 members of the League, only 2 of which are important to the plot. Can we at least get on board with that? That the title is bad? Maybe we can't. Maybe this is all for nothing. But at this point, let's just dig into the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And together, we can be justice.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man who punch sporadically or grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara, ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Yes, this is the Ultimate Edition instead of theatrical. It's what the patron wanted, which makes it a 3-hour movie. I almost said no to it just for that. Patreon-sponsored reviews are not supposed to take me longer than a regular review. Sometimes they do, but I do my damnedest to prevent it from happening. It's why I will never approve a Patreon-sponsored review of the Snyder Cut of Justice League. A 3-hour movie is already pushing my limits. 4 hours is right out. Not happening. Whatever, since this is a sequel, quick sum up of the previous film, Man of Steel. Krypton explodes, Kal-El is sent to Earth, is adopted by the Kents and becomes Clark. Pa Kent is annoyingly paranoid about Clark showing off his powers to the point where he seems uncertain if he should actually help people, which I don't know if you've heard is kind of Superman's whole deal, and in turn lets himself get killed even though Clark could probably save him even without showing off his powers. His ship is discovered in the Arctic, and apparently Jor-El made him a Superman suit in anticipation of this, as well as programming an artificial intelligence of himself that has way more screen time than Jor-El should have in a Superman movie. Truth be told, I kind of wish I was reviewing Man of Steel instead. As much as I hate this movie, Man of Steel is much worse to me. This film is a step up. Small step. General Zod and a bunch of his forces arrive on Earth to take it over and terraform it for new Kryptonians. Clark destroys their terraforming equipment, sends Zod's forces to the Phantom Zone, and then snaps Zod's neck because why not end your movie about a symbol of hope and decency and humanity with murder? But it's okay. He feels bad about it for 5 seconds. I'm sure I'm gonna get pushback for that, but enough about Man of Steel. Let's just finally talk about this movie.
There was a time above. A time before.
What time is it? The opening sequence here is simultaneously a good idea and a bad idea, recapping Batman's origin story in the credits. It's a good idea because, on the off chance this is somehow someone's first introduction to Batman, it gives you a quick summary of the details of who he is and what his deal is. In addition, it helps establish a bit of backstory for this Batman, since this is his first introduction to this universe. It's a bad idea, however, because part of the reason we don't have a Batman movie between this and Man of Steel is because there have been so many Batman movies in the previous decade that it feels unnecessary to set him up. Even though, as we'll see, this is a different sort of Batman than what we've had before, and could have probably used some better setup. Which is what these opening credits should have been doing, a montage of this version of Batman's history. I know that Snyder knows how to do this, because he did just that for his adaptation of Watchmen. Seriously, I have many issues with his version of Watchmen. It's in the original theme song, for crying out loud. But that opening credit sequence for it is a magnificent bit of visual storytelling. Except for the Last Supper retirement party. Just, what? And something like that to detail this Batman's history would have been phenomenal. Instead, it's just the same beats we've already seen. Wayne's murdered, Bruce falls into a cave full of bats. The only inclusion is Thomas Wayne saying Martha because the use of the name is significant later. But everything else has been there, done that. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one other new thing. The bats apparently gave Bruce superpowers too, since he can fly now.
In the dream, they took me to the light.
But dreams also have a lot of credits in them.
Don't you hate it when your dreams intercut between two important and painful moments from your childhood? We then see Bruce Wayne coming to Metropolis during the big climax of Man of Steel, where half the city got leveled.
Jack,
Bruce.
Jack, listen to me. I want you to get everyone out of the building right now. You understand?
Some have criticized why the hell these people weren't fleeing already, but bear in mind, this is a big corporation. It's entirely possible they just assumed they'd be fired for leaving the office even if the building was destroyed and half the staff killed. So this sequence is actually an example of the film taking something that was heavily criticized in Man of Steel and trying to use it to their advantage. The destruction porn and massive devastation caused by the Kryptonian attack, plus Superman's seeming inability or desire to try to take the fight elsewhere. Admittedly, when the big terraforming device is right there, there's not much you can do, but once the threat was eliminated, it was down to Zod and Superman having a big brawl in the city that caused even more damage, including this Wayne Industries building that Jack here apparently still hasn't tried to leave yet. Look, my point is that I actually need to give props to the film. This horror caused by two superpowered beings having a fist fight in a city, inspiring Batman to hate Superman? Good! Take something bad about the last movie and make it work for you here. Anyway, Bruce helps save a civilian on the streets.
You know what? We're gonna find your mom.
Where is she?
Oh, jeez. Say, how do you feel about the name Robin?
A year and a half later, near the remnants of one of the Kryptonian invasion ships in the Indian Ocean, a group of divers discover a chunk of kryptonite in the wreckage. Not sure why the Kryptonians had that. I don't know, maybe it was pieces of the planet that came along with their ship. But whatever. We cut over to the fictional Nairomi, Africa, where Lois Lane is doing an interview with a warlord, along with meeting her photographer, Jimmy Olsen, who is a last-minute replacement for her regular photographer. Unfortunately, they quickly discover a tracking device in Jimmy's equipment, revealing him to be a CIA agent whom the warlord kills. Thanks for introducing a beloved longtime Superman supporting character only to murder him in under 5 minutes. But it's okay, though. Snyder thought this was fun. He said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly in 2016 that with their plans for the movies, they didn't really have room for Jimmy, and the exact quote is, "We just did this as this little aside because we had been tracking where we thought the movies were going to go, and we don't have room for Jimmy Olsen in our big pantheon of characters, but we can have fun with him, right?" I really don't want to know what Snyder does with his weekends off if this is fun. They didn't mention him by name in the theatrical cut, but hey, this is the superior version of the movie. The mercenaries working for the warlord all of a sudden shoot the guy's regular soldiers and burn the bodies before leaving. Superman arrives as the warlord threatens Lois with a gun. "You know, Lois, you're over there, and sometimes over there needs to take care of its own—" Just shut up and help me already! And he does so. And I admit, I like her realizing what he can do and just going limp so the warlord can be dealt with at super speed. Lois is taken by the CIA, and Superman is blamed for the deaths of all the troops. Though, of course, even a cursory examination would reveal the bullets in them, plus the fact that his heat vision, even these superpowered extreme beams that these movies give him, don't just set people completely on fire like that. A government committee led by Senator Finch hears testimony about this, in particular that the Nairomi government then soon came and slaughtered the villagers without the protection of the warlord's forces. Finch declares that they hold Superman responsible for this, despite the fact that the CIA were also about to bomb the place against orders, and Supes destroyed the bombs to protect Lois.
I'm the government, I'm the government, I'm the reason nothing works.
I'd also point out that later dialogue indicates that Supes didn't even kill the warlord, though it's hard to tell considering he flew him through several walls, which I'd assume would mean that he handed him over to the Nairomi authorities or the CIA, so why wouldn't they question, hey, why did he leave the one guy alive when he slaughtered everyone else? Meanwhile, in Gotham, some cops come across the aftermath of Batman taking down some human traffickers. They're not dead, but Batman branded one of them with his logo.
I'm trying a new thing in an attempt to go viral. Everyone do the Bat Brand Challenge!
Lois, upon returning to Metropolis, finds a bullet inside her notebook, which got shot in all the gunfire. The bullet's a weird design, so naturally she does what she can as an investigative reporter. Take a bath while holding the bullet and staring at it. Clark, I found evidence that... Oh, down the drain it goes. Clark comes home, and there's a good scene between the two, both for expressing her concerns about their relationship and just the cuteness of them loving each other. Back over to Bruce, he and Alfred discuss how the human traffickers were actually connected to the mercenary we saw with the warlord. Bruce trying to find who he works for.
New rules.
My God, Alfred! New safety regulations for Gotham's air?
We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed.
Yeah. Snyder has expressed before how much he loves The Dark Knight Returns, and this ain't the first reference to it he's slipped into this. Hell, even incorporating scenes from it into this movie wasn't enough. He wants to do a straight adaptation of it. I did a full review of The Dark Knight Returns a couple months ago in case you missed that, and I hate that line. And frankly, my opinion on The Dark Knight Returns as a work has soured the more of Frank Miller's pro-fascist, racist, and just in general terrible work has come out since then. It's not a work without merit, and it is most certainly not a bad comic, but Snyder has expressed in the past that before stuff like Watchmen or The Dark Knight Returns, he hated superhero material, only started liking the really violent books. Now, the man's not an idiot. He's not just making movies where people punch each other for 3 hours. He knows about the themes and iconography and imagery and is trying to tell a story with it. But trying to evoke the imagery from The Dark Knight Returns divorced from its original context makes it come across like you don't understand that book and only cared about it from a very shallow perspective. The fight between Batman and Superman at the end of The Dark Knight Returns is not the centerpiece of the story, nor its primary theme. It's a story about Batman rediscovering himself and facing off against a world that is rejecting the old way of doing things. And that story actually does have some merit for a Batman movie here. Think about it. Instead of this movie, the second in the DC Cinematic Universe is indeed an older, wearier Batman struggling with all that's come to pass and redefining what it is to be Batman, especially in a world that now includes beings like Superman who can destroy an entire city by accident. And then, at the end, once we've spent time with him and his struggles, we see that things are going to come to a head with Superman in the third movie for various reasons, like the stuff we see in this film. But therein lies the problem. We have something like that in this film, but it's truncated. So instead of it being the focus of a solo Batman movie, a Batman movie where we want to be on his side and are genuinely conflicted between two heroes who we can see things from both sides, we're just straight up given a Batman here who is kind of an idiot and is branding people and trying to get them murdered in prison. Yeah, more of that in a minute. But let's move on to the next issue with this film that drags it down for me. The dialogue is freaking repetitive.
Not even I think to God.
The gods hurl thunderbolts.
The basis of our myths, gods among men upon our little blue planet here. Gods and men.
It's not some sort of devil or Jesus character.
Because God is tribal. God takes sides.
Now God bends to my will.
You're never God.
If man won't kill God,
The God is dead.
Gee, do you think that superheroes are supposed to be like gods? I can't tell. They're being so subtle about it. A lot of the dialogue is just really overdramatic and flowery. There are so few moments where there's any wit or charm, and we have this droning soundtrack of either a single tone or someone doing a solo in their choir class. We need to move on. Alfred sums up Bruce's motivation in this.
Feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
And now I shall walk away having made my point, Master Bruce. I trust you will not pursue this whole murder Superman thing anymore. And now it's time to meet Lex Luthor. Except, not really. It's his son. Yeah, for some reason they decided to have this be Lex Luthor Jr. instead of being the traditional Lex Luthor. The idea was to modernize the character by making him a young tech mogul instead of the traditional rich, bald industrialist. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but rich, bald industrialists with way too much power are still a thing in modern times. That being said, another point to the movie, Lex Luthor is actually Finally, a billionaire CEO in the films. It bugged me to no end in Superman Returns when Luthor was still some weirdo obsessed with real estate in 2006, as if murdering millions of people by creating a new landmass would net him riches and not a bullet. One of the best alterations to the character made in the wake of Crisis on Infinite Earths, in my opinion, was changing him from some generic mad scientist into the billionaire mogul. It positions him as the perfect opposite of Superman. A genius-level IQ who could make the world better, but chooses not to because of either greed or a lack of empathy or both. A self-made narcissist who hates Superman simply because he's an immigrant who uses his power to help people and expects nothing in return. He is corruption incarnate, whereas Superman is incorruptible. One of the things that people don't realize about the "why doesn't anyone recognize Clark Kent as Superman" question is that nobody, Lex Luthor especially, thinks that Superman has a secret identity. After all, as Lex would probably say, why would anyone not show off how much power they have? Pretend to be weaker and more average. Anyway, Lex meets with Senator Finch, who heads the Senate Committee on Homeland Security. Lex discovered a small piece of kryptonite in Metropolis during the invasion, and their scientists have determined how harmful it is to Kryptonians. He wants permission to take the chunk found in the Indian Ocean and bring it to America, but they need an import license for it. Finch doesn't seem to want to go for it, but her associate talks to Lex privately to say it can be done.
What's your wish list?
I want them to bring back lemon Jolly Ranchers as part of the main line and not as a separate, harder-to-find candy. Lex wants access to the debris of the Kryptonian ship and Zod's body for testing. And I guess this guy's only counteroffer is that he wanted a Jolly Rancher too, because then Lex feeds him a Jolly Rancher and then licks his own fingers. I mean, him wanting the Jolly Rancher fed to him is the only logical explanation I can think of for what just happened. Or it's just that this Lex is so wacky and fun and manic and blah. Many people compared this Lex to the Joker, but honestly, I really don't see it. I just see some weirdo and people not reacting appropriately to the weirdo being a weirdo. God, is this what it's like to work for Elon Musk? We see a guy that Bruce had helped save at the start, but lost his legs, and apparently his family, head over to the memorial for those killed in Metropolis. And maybe I'm just dumb, but why is there a big statue to Superman in front of it? Like, maybe if Superman had died in the battle and he was a beloved figure and all, I'd get it, but it seems like venerating the dude like this shouldn't be next to the memorial to those who died in the battle. I don't know, maybe it's more quasi 9/11 imagery like the statues to rescue workers, but I feel like those are in honor of the ones who died trying to help people too. Also, is it just me, or did the pose they chose for him make him look more like Spider-Man? Anyway, he's here to do his own little protest, lifting himself up onto the statue and spray painting on it. People called Superman, they go the house. No, he actually writes false god on it, because Superman's like a god, do you get it yet?
Ken, your sports today. I want you to go over to Gotham, follow up on the football.
You know, Perry, maybe the reason the Daily Planet has occasional financial problems is because you're assigning random reporters to departments they have no knowledge or experience in. Heroes Park hate crime? How is this a hate crime? Is every news organization in this universe incompetent?
I work for Bruce Wayne! I work for Bruce Wayne!
I work for Bruce Wayne! That makes what I'm doing okay!
Arraigned on charges of vandalism, resisting arrest, and the felony charge of making terrorist threats.
Terrorist threat? What terrorist threats? Is there something written on Superman's ass that we can't see? Dude, you are not living up to the standards the Tandy Computer Whiz kids set for us. Oh, who the hell am I kidding? I bet Alec and Shanna are CIA operatives who got killed in this too. Clark decides to go and interview the woman who had spoken up about the massacre in Nairomi, but according to the tenants in the apartment she was in, she's long gone. Wait, I figured since she was supposed to be a witness to what happened, she, lived in Nairomi. Why does she have an apartment in Gotham? How long has she been living in Gotham? Or was she talking about some other incident related to Superman? Whatever, the tenants say he should leave, afraid of Batman coming out at night, since he's apparently become scarier than he used to be. Speaking of, Bruce, making no effort to hide his identity, locates the mercenary and uses his proximity to clone the guy's phone data. Clark returns to Metropolis to try to convince Perry White to do a story on Batman.
Crime wave in Gotham. Other breaking news. Water. Wet.
And the news would never be concerned with sensationalist stories about crime statistics and vigilantes. But whatever, Lois has discovered the bullet doesn't match any known make or model and suspects the US government is supplying the rebels in Nairomi with materiel, so gets permission to go to DC and investigate. As Lois leaves, Perry hands Clark a new assignment, covering a charity benefit for the Library of Metropolis. Clark was specifically asked for. Damn it, Kent, I can't believe I'm giving this to you. I needed you to cover the weather report. I thought you wanted me doing sports. Look, I'm too busy to worry about the little details. Just get me that science and tech story by the end of the day. Senator Finch meets with Lex privately to let him know she found out about the import license and is blocking it.
The red capes are coming. The red capes are coming.
The annoying douchebag is here! The annoying douchebag is here! He thinks the hearings on Superman are pointless.
Can I call you Jew?
You can call me whatever you like. Take a bucket of piss and call it Granny's peach tea.
Or just call it by its proper name, Dr. Pepper. He points out a painting in the room of angels fighting demons and says that it should be upside down, that real devils come from the sky. I do like that line, and it actually dawned on me during this that Lex Luthor scenes are the only moments where the music is not just a dull drone. I mean, I hate this Lex Luthor, but his performance does have energy to it, and the music seems to reflect that. Like, oh my god, he's so discordant with the rest of the tone that the music has to be actual music instead of wallpaper.